Good afternoon, everybody. This is New Federal State of China Special Program Miles Trial. We will be broadcasting every day from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. on Getter Alpha TV. So special thanks for Jeremy to give us, this special hour session to have us update on Miles Guo's case. For many of you might have already been aware, Miles was the founder of the New Federal State of China. He was charged by the United States government of 12 federal counts. Most of them are related to investments, financial charges, as well as one RICO count. And so his trial actually began from last Wednesday, and the jury selection was completed last Friday with 12 jurors and 6 alternatives. And the government now, up till today, has called upon 6 witnesses for the government to testify against Miles. Yesterday, the trial concluded with the 4th witness, and it went into a half cross-examination from our defense. And the 4th witness was a former employee of the Rule of Law Foundation and Rule of Law Society, also a former employee from Golden Spring. Those are entities that were mentioned in Miles Guo's indictment. The 4th witness, of course, her name is Karen Mestrello. And so today, the government and the defense team continued to question her even through the lunch break, and then the government called upon 2 extra witnesses to conclude today's trial. So let's have Jackson on, to brief us, a little bit more about the details of what's going on in the court today.
All right,
Jackson.
what's going on, Ayla?
Hi, Jackson. We're so glad to have you. I knew that you just walked out of the courtroom, before you get
Yeah.
connected with us. So tell us a little bit, first of all, how was Miles today? Obviously, from the previous reports, we understand that he was always wearing very decent suits and very high spirits, having the bright smiles to the jurors, to his defense teams, and taking notes, listen very attentively to all of the testimonies. So how was Miles today?
Mr. Miles Guo was handsome as always. I got a good look at him, as I was leaving the court today. Steel gray suit, light color shirt, light blue tie. I mean, can't find a better man, a better looking man. Excuse me.
Absolutely, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, from previous reports, we understand that Miles' English has been improving a lot. He was able to actually communicate with his defense team without the translator. So it was very happy to hear that, with all these complex and lengthy questioning, that Miles still maintained that high level of confidence and high level of energy, to be present in the courtroom. And so, going back to, yesterday's cross-examination, obviously, our defense team has already started to cross-examining, Karen Mestrello, who is a former employee.
Yeah.
And it seems to me that there is a mismatch of her previous testimony with the testimony on the trial today. So brief us a little bit of what was going on before the lunch break.
Well, before the lunch break, actually, how do I say? One thing I'll say is this: is that today was very exciting in terms of we went over a lot of numbers, a lot of financials and things of that nature. Um, and I'm still internalizing a lot of what happened today, and I'm sure later down the week we'll, once I go over the transcript, I'll be able to bring you guys more information. But in terms of what happened before lunch, or before the break, actually, we had a sidebar, and I will have to actually dig back into my notes a little bit, Ayla. So I do apologize as to what all the details were before, before the break that we had coming back. If you could actually give me a second, let me think.
Right.
Um,
So yeah. So
yeah,
Jackson,
yeah, yeah.
let us walk through a little bit, right? Because yesterday we
Okay.
mentioned about how during the cross-examination of the 4th witness, our defense actually asked her about her interaction, with Miles in the
Yeah.
past. That she testified that in a past time that Miles actually have her to purchase luxurious items, but
Mm, mm, mm.
often at the time those transactions were canceled, and that she did not eventually purchase those items, as she testified. And on the other hand, a series of evidences from government exhibits were presented to the court yesterday, and it seems to us, some of the photos that pertaining, images of Miles' families, his daughter, his wife, and his daughter's boyfriend, was carefully selected by the government. And one highlight of yesterday's conversation was when our defense team questioned, the fourth witness, Carrie Mastrello, about if, she had contact with the government prior to the trial, and our defense team actually pulled out, a series of dates, which, both parties believe that the government had contacted or communicated with her. And she said that I don't recall. And so our defense team, further asked, if they had contact the day before she testified, and she said yes. And, our defense team then asked further if, the fourth witness had met the government on Memorial Holiday, which is Monday of this week, and she said yes as well. And so, to everybody, right, Memorial Holiday is a public holiday for federal agencies. So it is, a bit strange to everybody that the government had contacted and met her privately, before she testified. And so. Obviously, there were arguments about, how the photos were selected and chosen to the court, because as a former employee of, whatever companies that she worked for, she should not be able to have access to family's photos, right? And those family photos were very carefully chosen by the government to present it into the court. And some of them might, have been seen to have some misleading images or misleading information as well. And so I was wondering, since yesterday our defense team did a very good job of, of pulling out all of the puzzles together instead of, just listening to the testimony from the fourth witness. It was surprising to me that, when I read reports from NFSC Speaks X account, that the fourth witness actually testified that she had actually worked for FBI in the past time. So can you, can you brief us a little bit of, how our defense team questioned her about her relationship with FBI?
Well, our defense team did a great job. They one question after the other, very thorough with the questioning, and yeah, like you said, I personally was not actually at the trial yesterday, but giving you guys the scoop on what happened today, question by question. Believe it or not, today she said she did forget a lot. She was not able to recollect, and that's where we came in to fill her in on some of the details that she did forget. So in the past, she did indeed work with, for example, the FBI via a contract job or an opportunity or gig, I believe. And yeah, she had to admit to it, and that was one of those deals pertaining to the FBI question.
Right, Jackson. During the questioning, did the fourth witness ever testify about, during what time that she had worked with the FBI? Was there a correlation between her job with FBI and her job, in the entities, mentioned in the indictment?
Well, in terms of the year, I will have to go back to my notes to give you guys the exact answer. I don't want to just, speak from my memory, just in case I give you guys the wrong numbers. But in terms of the entity that she did work for, is the Rule of Law Society. She did not have authorization over the finances whatsoever. She will have to go, to Yvette Wang, for example, to authorize any of the payments, for example. Like one example that we had during the trial was in an expense of $1,100, $1,117.95 from Apple Inc. And as a small amount as $1,000, she didn't even have the authorization to expense without, speaking to Yvette Wang first. So that just goes to show you, how much or how involved she really was, even though she was on the board of the Rule of Law Society.
Right. And during her testimony yesterday, right, when the government questioned her about her involvement with Rule of Law Society and what specific project that she was working on, she actually admitted that Rule of Law actually bought masks and to
Yep.
distribute to those who in need actually in China. And she, ironically, she said she voted no because she did not understand why the masks need to be distributed to China if the masks were actually produced in China. That was one. But she did admit, during the time of COVID-19 pandemic, Rule of Law Foundation actually used the donation, all of the money that collected from the donors to purchase masks, sending out to NYPD and to people in
Yep.
China. And on the other hand, she did mention about one special trip that she had during her time working with rule of law. She said that she was traveling to France with
Mm,
with four police agents, former police agents,
mm,
to investigate
mm.
about a Chinese business person, Wang Jian, the CEO of Hainan
Yep.
Airlines,
Ace
death.
Wanette.
And she did admit, the investigation happened, and she went there primarily for the investigation with other four, detectives. So it sounds to me, all of the witnesses had actually confirmed what the Miles had actually broadcasted years ago, right? We obviously learned from that investigation through Miles' press conference, and we understand that some of the press conference in 2018 was actually presented into the court as well. And so it sounds to me like even these witnesses are called upon the government. Some of the testimony actually verified what Miles said in the past. Is that the same case, or do you have the same feeling with me, Jackson?
Yes, exactly. I mean, she had her role, she had her responsibilities, and like for example with the masks that you guys were talking about during pandemic, she actually did not go to the office. Um, she was not there at the office to witness some of the things that had happened. A lot of it was based off of he said, she said. For example, also there was an instance where they had some furnitures that had to be moved in a moving company that was brought up, and she was saying how uh, 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 they didn't pay the vendor, the moving company, but in reality, actually, the one of the furnitures has sentimental values to Mr. Miles Guo, and it was damaged. So there are a lot of these details that were like not. So the point I'm trying to make is that our defense team did a great job being very thorough and actually help tell the full story instead of, filling in a lot of the blanks that was not, you know, yeah, that was not there
Right.
prior. Hmm.
Right, exactly. And
Yeah.
from my understanding is that the cross-examination of the fourth witness actually completed after the lunch break. And in a very
Yeah.
short time after the lunch break, the government actually called two extra witnesses to testify. And
Yep.
it sounds to me very that the process actually went a bit more speedy this afternoon. The fourth witness took almost a full day
Yeah.
trial for her
Yep.
testimony, and previously the third witness used almost one day plus another half day to complete all of the questioning. And so tell us a little bit about the two witnesses
Mm.
in the afternoon.
Beautiful. Will do. So the fourth witness, the fifth witness, excuse me, his name is Patrick Shin, and he was never actually, he admitted in court that he's never actually a member of any farm. His
Hmm.
experience was purely working with a man by the name of David Dai, DAI, and he sent his money to VOG at the time. So he had the interaction with David and also Sarah Wei instead of with Mr. Miles Guo. And they began. He came on, and the same old deal where they went through his story a little bit, building a little bit of his credibility. He talked about how he came from Taiwan, and from there, from Taiwan, his family. He talked about his family, right, the communism and everything else, and how his family's member were slaughtered and everything else. And so they built a little bit of story around him. He is also a PhD, believe it or not, from UC San Diego. And anyways, we went into the story, and he essentially just talked about how he felt like the um, the investments that he made was $10,000, and number one, and he felt like it was just a scam and everything else. And he was working or volunteering as a translator, somebody that was helping out with the G News and whatnots, working with David Dye at the time. And anyways, it's very interesting. It was very short. It was very quick, to the point. And what can I say? It's just I can't wait to dig into the transcript to really give you guys the full
Mhm.
story. Because today, believe it or not, I really enjoyed today. It was amazing. Like when I left earlier, they were still going on. After the jurors left, because we had an objection. So
Mhm.
George Torres, we're just still going back and forth a little bit. So it was very exciting.
Right, Jackson.
Yeah.
Brief us a little bit of, the objection situation in the court. Obviously, we
Mm.
understand that during our cross-examination, the government has also raised many objections to the questions. Some of
Yeah.
were overruled by the judge, some were sustained. So brief us a
Mm.
little bit about the objection situation today. Who raised more objections? It was government or the defense, or what are the specific questions that were being raised as objections from both parties?
Wow. Okay. Again, I will have to dig into my notes to give you guys something a little bit more proper. But from my immediate reaction is this. I'll tell you guys is a lot of the objections really came down to what questions were we able to ask.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, for example, let me think. For example, like we were talking about with the sixth witness that came on, Miss her first name is Steele,
Deal?
Steele. Yep, from the Hayman Capital. They were going over and talking about how does she believe by investing in one of their financial products, would that be something that can actually take down the CCP? So actually, it's very interesting because the CCP was brought up multiple times. The Operation Fox Hunt was brought up multiple times as well. We went over the definition again, going over the Operation Fox Hunt. Man, so many interesting things happened today.
Right, Jackson. I'm
Yeah.
glad that you mentioned about the CCP's Foxhound operation. One of the highlights from yesterday's trial was, our defense team actually read the stipulation statement
Yeah.
in which, stated that Miles Guo was, listed as the number one enemy of the Chinese Communist Party and the number one target of Chinese Communist Party's Foxhound operation. And for people who are not
Mm,
familiar with Foxhound operation, right, there is a
mm,
case, that was filed from New York Eastern District, against a group of the Chinese Communist Police Department called 912 Project, and it was United States versus BAI versus BAI, and I would encourage everybody to read that document because that document specifically listed Miles as victim one. And
mm,
specifically mentions about how Chinese Communist Party used the state power, to launch misinformation campaigns through social media accounts. They control fake accounts through police departments, through intelligence departments, and to harass, to threaten, to intimidate not only the targets,
mm,
but also the followers and the supporters of the target themselves. They would also be able to actually send out harass information, and to exaggerate the racial tension in the United States as well. Those were all part of the plans from CCP's Foxhound operation, and so that was included in yesterday's stipulation, and of course
mm,
the stipulation was a document agreed upon both parties. The government signed on that document. The defense team signed on that document. It is presented as a fact to the jurors and to both parties as well. And so Jackson,
yeah.
tell us why our defense team mentioned about CCP's Fox Hunt operation again, and in
Yeah.
what situation that Chinese Communist Party's role came up in the court today.
Well, came up multiple times. Pretty much throughout the whole deal, throughout the whole trial today. Um, we went over the CCP, like for example, towards with the sixth witness. Well,
Mm-hmm.
with the fifth witness with Patrick when he came out, we were talking about Operation Fox Hunt, asking him, does he know that Mr. Miles Guo is actually one of the top number one targets, something like this, the Operation Fox Hunt. With the last lady that came out, witness number 6, Mrs. Steele from Hayman Capital. How do I say? Yeah, I mean, let me dig a little bit. Let me dig a little bit in my brain. Um, so many interesting things has happened. I'm so sorry. I'm gonna need some time to kind of go through my notes.
Yeah, exactly,
But
Jackson. I'm
yeah,
pretty sure, it's a lot of information for you to digest as you just
yeah,
walked out of the courtroom, right? And so,
yeah.
it sounds very interesting to me because, the word Chinese Communist Party and CCP's Foxconn operation now became a
Yeah.
frequent term that were being mentioned in the courtroom. And yesterday, in that stipulation statement, it was not just about CCP's Foxconn operation. Our
Mm,
defense team also read about, the effort from the United States in China to repatriate Miles
mm,
back to China. A list
mm,
of big names, such as Higginbotham, Elliot Brady,
mm.
Steve Wayne, Nick
Wow.
Lum Davis were mentioned yesterday as well. And so all of these, names plus Chinese Communist Party state effort through Foxconn operations were, specifically pointed out in the court yesterday. And most importantly, right, in that stipulation,
Mm,
there was a phrase, in that stipulation, it addresses, what Miles, what the situation that Miles has been in because of his fight against the Chinese Communist Party. Interestingly,
mm,
saying that even, with the testimony of the fourth witness, when,
mm,
the government or the defense asked, what topics were being discussed when she worked for Rule of Law Foundation, because the fourth witness did actually participate several meetings before
mm,
before the Rule of Law Foundation was established. She said that
mm,
there are four agendas, and one of the agenda is that CCP, it does not represent China. CCP is different from the Chinese people, and the other
mm.
is about how to help and Chinese Communist Party's dissidents overseas, mainly related to the investigation of the death of Wang Jian of the HNA airline CEO. So it sounds to me lots of the objectives of how Miles want to take down the Chinese Communist Party and his
Mm.
effort in achieving the goal of taking down the CCP has actually been presented into the court even through witnesses' mouths.
Mm,
And so
mm,
Jackson, brief us a little bit on, the
mm,
interaction today, because we understand that yesterday Sabrina was the one, leading the cross-examination. Was the same
mm.
attorney leading, the questioning today, or, was it, another, attorney stepping up and leading that questioning?
Yep. Yeah. Great question. Yeah. It's so Sabrina started she kicked things off with witness number 4, and then from there, Sid came in. Mr. Miles Gold's attorney came in to question the 5th and the 6th witness, which is Patrick Shin and Mrs. Steele from Heyman Capital. Both did a wonderful job, and this is actually my first time, watching Mrs. Sabrina in action, and let's just say she's very sharp, and what can I say? Um, yeah,
Did you fall in love
it's
with
really
her?
cool to see her in action. Oh my gosh. I'm doing my best to keep professional, but yeah, for sure, she is
Yeah.
yeah,
So,
very very.
for
Let's just say she's very sharp. Yeah,
Yeah, she is very sharp, very smart,
yeah.
obviously, a very powerful attorney to represent Miles. She gave a
Hmm.
very powerful statement, at the beginning of the trial. And, the questions that she asked during a cross-examination were always on
Mm.
point, right? And that's how,
Oh yeah.
they put the puzzles together for the jurors. So, Jackson, thank you so much, for bringing us the news. And, as you just walked out of the courtroom, we'd like to hear you
Mm.
more, once you get more information and
Yeah.
once you read through those, we absolutely would like to hear more from you. Thank you so much, Jackson.
Thank you so much, Ayla. Can't wait. Can't wait.
All right, folks. We're very happy that Jackson gave us, some firsthand information as he just walked out of the courtroom. And now we're excited to have Ava in the studio, who also, attend the trial today and listened to, everything that happening in the trial. And she is in the studio right now with her notes. So we're very glad to have her, and we can't wait to hear more updates from Ava.
So hi, Ayla, hi everyone. Thanks again for having me. And I just rushed back on the subway train. So I quickly, a few minutes before the show, I gathered a little bit my notes, just kind of a summarize. So I think it is a very fulsome day. The prosecutor team definitely made a big progress because we had a chance to they had a chance to basically asking questions to 3 witnesses. So one of the witness was from yesterday, so it continued on in the beginning of the day. Took a lot of time, but then we actually had the 5th witness for about an hour and 20 in total with the prosecutor team, with the direct questioning and the cross-examining. And then we moved on because the second witness in the day was very short. I will get to that, why it was very short. And then we moved on to the last witness, which is the 3rd witness for the day, for the day 6. So that's tomorrow is likely to continue the question, the direct question, possibly with this 3rd witness of the day. So the full impression of today is the CCP is on the trial again. So although I know CCP is not on the defendant, but through both the direct questioning and the cross-examination, we will be able to see all those activities that CCP did, whether it's to the Chinese people as a whole group, or whether it is to Miles Guo and the movement. So so I want to go back to the first witness, which her name is Kering, and we already know from yesterday's show, and she was actually worked for an employee of the Golden Spring. And the period of her employment started in early 2018 and then all the way to April 2020. And he left for medical reasons. So, and the very first day, which is yesterday's testimony from her, from the direct questioning and also the cross, is people possibly left an impression that she knows what she talks about, right? Just giving her closeness, vicinity, and in the know. And she was the employee interpreter and project assistant. I think that's her title of the Golden Spring. And also she was board members, one of the board members on the Rule of Law Society, right? And she later was also approached by another co-conspirator, according to the indictment, William J., to join the board of ACA. That's another investment equity companies that the name came up throughout the proceeding. So seems like she is in the know. The things that she talks should have some weight. But I have to say, throughout today's cross-examination, I think the defense team significantly, at least from my perspective, I don't know what the juror's impression was, but significantly weakened what her basically testimony yesterday and earlier today. So just give you some of the highlights of some of the information that during the direct questioning and the cross. So when we do the so when the cross that happened this morning, there is actually a question asked for the first witness, Kering. And the information is about, do you remember, okay, Miles Guo asked you to research on a DDoS attack. Okay, so
DDoS attack.
Yes, for the audience that you don't know the DDoS attack, it's kind of a form of cyber attack that is very frequently used by the CCP, targeting many, could be individuals, could be entities. If you recall, May 2017, they actually attacked Twitter, which resulted the Miles Guo's account being suspended, not accessible to his followers, right? So this is type of a DDoS attack. So, and the answer from her is yes, she remembered. She said, I was only looked into the attack, gather information on G Media platform. Okay, although the question was more broad in terms of attacking not only G Media, but overall our movement, including probably Rule of Law Society and Rule of Law Foundation. And then, so that questioning, that sort of a questioning basically reviewed a lot of more information because there is such attack. So there's internal discussion among the board members, okay, on the Rule of Law Society, how they can secure their email communication. So one of the board members at the time, you probably knew, Bill Gertz, William Gertz, a journalist. And he basically suggested they should consider use proton mail because it's more secure. So when this question was asked, ask the witness whether she still remembered, this was a discussion, and her answer is yes. She actually did say yes. So she did confirm, this sort of a question. But then there's more questioning about the security. So today, one of the information basically reviewed is Kering was actually the one established the security protocol for the location of the Golden Spring for the office. So she basically developed, and she also made, one of her responsibility was to inform everybody in that establishment to be aware of the protocol that's involved, basically verification procedures for visitors and vendors, and including date, time, reason. Basically, she repeated, remember, there's a string of a question, ask her whether you remember this, whether you remember the security protocol, and her answer to a lot of people's surprise that she does not recall, because this is a pretty important issue because it's to do with security, right? After you research the DDoS and everything, but this seems drawing a blank on her. And then because one of the testimony that she had done yesterday, which was to kind of blur the line between Rule of Law Foundation and Rule of Law Society, because we know these are separate charitable organizations, right? But her role was very limited and confined within the Rule of Law Society, right? So she obviously could not speak on behalf of the Rule of Law Foundation, completely different. Exactly. So our defense lawyer made a very distinct efforts to distinguish this, and she confirmed, yeah, I was only employed with this, and then they went through a little bit, and let me just check my notes. Okay, so one of the highlights that she through the questioning is it turned out to be that Kering actually worked for FBI. Do you know that?
How did that come up? How did that question come up? When our defense questioned about her relationship or employment with FBI.
Because asked about China. So because from the first day's testimony that she mentioned her previous experience, she worked in China for an oil company, and then so asked China, and then she so that question came up with let me see the detailed question because I have lots of those.
Right. So in yesterday, when government, questioned Karen, the fourth witness, they asked about her employment history and her history in China. She said that she worked for an oil company, and she herself admitted that companies such as oil company in China is government controlled, and she did mention about she also has teaching experiences in China as well. And for people who's not familiar with that witness, the fourth witness actually broadcasted with Miles before, and before she joined Ray, entities, Rule of Law Society or Golden Spring, she was actually just came, from China, and to quickly join the entities, that was kind of like mentioned in the indictment. And so I was very surprised because obviously, we got some news from an FSC Speaks, X account. Yeah. So I was surprised that she actually admitted that she had been a contractor for FBI in the past. So the moment when I read that post, I had two questions. One was how the question was related to her relationship with FBI, and the other is about what time that she had such employment or contractor relationship with FBI was in the same time that she worked for Golden Spring or Rule of Law Society.
That didn't come out. So when did she work for FBI was not questioned. So we don't know. But let me backtrack a little bit. So how did we get to the question? I think there's a lot of time spent on her role on the board as well, because she in the previous day's testimony, she seems knows what she talked about on the board because she voted no on some of the decisions on the board regarding the the PPE, the N95. But then today there's some time spending on a lot of events that happened on the board, even including the date of the board and important subjects such as Sasa Gong's firing by the VOA. It was a special board meeting, and she does not remember any of those. Okay, so basically it left me an impression that she really had very selective memory, or there's some issue with her memory that she does not remember all of those significant things. As a board member, you should, right? Because it seems like she only remembers boss and Miles School, yelled, because I think the strategy of the prosecutor is every witness has a special purpose to serve, right? Otherwise, they wouldn't prepare this witness, they wouldn't wasting their time. I think this particular Ke-ring is serve a testify on Miles School's character. Because at the second round of a questioning that she spoke on Miles School's character being mad. Sometimes he gets mad, and when the mood is not very good, and he got angry, and then he yelled to us, so she did testify that. So let me get
today or
today. Yeah,
okay.
in today. So she did say that, but let me get to the FBI. So the question after they talked about the board, and which she kind of drawing a blank, does not recall anything, and they spent a lot of time on how did she get on spent some time, not a lot of time, how did she get onto the ACA board, which is another capital investment management firm. So William Ye is the person that was basically introduced. Let me think about it. It was Yvette Wang introduced her to William Ye.
Okay.
But she was saying it was Miles School that introduced her to ACA. So and then so let me draw my memory a little bit. I couldn't remember around, but everything goes to the just don't take my words for it, because I might not remember it accurately. But the defense team pulled up in evidence. It was a testimony that when she was deposed a few years ago.
Oh.
Okay, and I think it was 2020. I even marked the date according to a court case that she was deposed before. And in that testimony, she actually said, quote, okay, because this is a transcript of that, and she actually said it was introduced by Yan Ping, Yvette Wang to William Ye. It wasn't Miles School.
So it sounds to me like our defense team actually presented to the court and the jurors one exhibit that was the deposition testimony that she gave earlier on, prior to the trial, even prior to this case, about ACA. And in the previous, deposition, she did testify about how she was connected with William Ye, another defendant in the case.
That's correct.
And in the first deposition that she testified, the witness said that she was introduced by Yvette Wang. And in today's trial, in front of the juror and the judge, she gave out a different testimony then.
That's correct. So basically, it's a conflicting.
Right.
It's conflicting. So who is because your memory? So the question from the defense team is, do you think your memory was worse today than the other than the time that you did depose? And I can't recall her answer, but she said, I don't know, I'm not sure, something like that. But it's definitely showing a gap.
Right. And the inconsistency here made people doubt about the credibility of her testimony in general, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think people would have an impression that her memory might be, not reliable. Yeah, because she did asserted a lot of I don't remember, I don't recall, even though the defense team tried everything to remind the circumstances that what was the event that was happened by showing her aid, like by emails or by something like on documents, because the spectator and the jury didn't get to see that, but of course the defense team offered her just to kind of refresh her recollection, but she couldn't do it by just reading the email that sent or received by her. So anyway, and moved on to there's a lot of details, but I'm gonna skip a little bit. And then for the FBI, so when we questioned her about the FBI, then we were asking her education. So it turned out to be she is very well educated, to have 2 master's degrees. She mentioned about one in Chinese, one in linguistic, and she also worked in China. And so the question after, so before she worked for Golden Spring, this is after she worked for Golden Spring, she actually created a company. It's called Kai Enterprise. I don't know, there's nothing more, like the defense attorney did not ask further question to probe this, but I'm thinking maybe in the future, this name will come up again, I don't know, but the witness is done today, so I don't know. She said the defense team was mentioning about the Kai Enterprise, and then she also worked in Google. as a part-time from home kind of a maybe contract or
Maybe
something.
a remote
Yeah.
position.
And then the work for FBI came out, so she did say that she worked for FBI via a agency, so via a third party. Through that third party, then she worked for FBI. So then our defense team further asked a question, say, if the FBI gave you a job right now, would you accept it? Although she didn't answer, it was sustained, I believe. So, and then move on to talk, and then she started talking a lot about Miles Guo's ego. So, because remember, she testified the other day and talked about Miles Guo has a very big ego, and it's, so he's all about himself, those kind of thing. So today, our defense counsel speak to that, asked her about that, and then I think the second round, the direct question, the prosecutor came in, the prosecutor focused on building up the persona of Miles Guo, the character of Miles Guo. So the second direct question that the prosecutor started by asking her, did Miles Guo chastise you, or did Miles Guo chastise your colleagues at Golden Spring? And so the answer she gave is, I don't remember. I just remember, depends on her mood. Sometimes she could be really kind, treating people kindly, but if he's angry, then he's basically just yells at people when he's not happy. And then she testified, say that Miles Guo would call her stupid, incompetent, and blah blah blah. And then our
it reminds me of yesterday that she tried to make an argument saying that she was not satisfied with the work environment.
Yeah.
And the defense team actually asked if she was ever received a gift of an Hermes puffer jacket.
Yeah.
And I think she admitted, right, or she said, I don't recall. And then the
that she
defense
said
team,
she don't recall.
Yeah, and then the defense team further asked, if she recognized Hermes is a luxury brand,
Yeah.
meaning that the gift itself, shows the value of how good that you were treated when you were employee, and she said that she was not sure about
That's
it, right?
Yeah.
And so this was just about the way that the fourth witness, Karen, the former employee, testified in the court.
Yeah, that's right. And then they mentioned about something. Another question is, there is a bill. There is a move. So when they move to Miles' Connecticut home, right? Miles Guo has a Connecticut home, and the mover, the bill, the invoice is $100,000. So they talked about who is paying the money and who authorized you to pay the money, and do you know anything that the furniture is damaged? So that's from prosecutor team, and she said she felt, so this witness felt that the bill should be paid, okay, and because she personally not aware of. She's not aware of any damage. Okay, so this was the cross. This was the second direct questioning from the prosecutor, and it only lasts 10 minutes. So our defense lawyer, which is Sabrina, basically came back with the second round of a cross, and this is really, really awesome. And she basically addressed all the two things, the character and the 100,000 move, but she started with CCP. Okay, she started with CCP. She said, if CCP, how do you become a CCP member? Okay, so you would have to choose at its very young age, possibly college, and once you're chosen, you're joining CCP, you're not allowed to withdraw, right? So some kind of that, but she's not recall. She said, I don't know. Okay, she basically said, I don't know whether you can withdraw or not. But then when it asked to the character, when it stressed to the character, and then if you recall yesterday from the testimony from the same witness, they showed the offer letter. And on the offer letter, they specifically, there's a bullet point saying the employment at will. So what does employment at will mean?
That means parties could terminate a relationship anytime.
On the spot. So you don't have to give 2 weeks notice. If you're not happy, you could just shake your hand, say I'm leaving. Okay, so that's employee at will. And so today again asked, did you leave? If
you are not happy with where you're working.
Exactly. If Miles will yell at you and you're not happy, calling all this, did you basically, did you leave? No, I quit for health reason. That's what she said. Okay, I didn't leave and I quit for health reason. It's not because of all the other reasons. And then there's a one contentious point is whether Mao School never filed any employee, because according to this witness, she believed that Mao School filed people directly. Okay, so then there's a questioning asking her, really? Did Mao School really fire anybody? Did you know that he fired anybody? And she said yes. And then when asked her who are the people that she was asked to file, she said, I don't remember their names. Okay, so that's some of the things.
Right. So the argument that she was trying to make is Miles was the one to determine
Correct.
who can be continuing,
That's right.
being in the office as employees, who
Yeah.
were not being able to be employed.
Correct.
But when it comes to details of who were fired or who were terminated directly by Miles, she
Yeah.
did not give out any names in the court.
That's correct. And then that's why defense counsel was very surprised. He said, you filed people and you don't know any of their names. Usually firing people you have to prepare, right? Because it's legal proceeding, it's employment law kicks in, the HR usually do check the dot the line and cross the T's. So but she said no. And then when it comes to the $100,000 bill payment, so it turned out to be throughout the questioning, the cross-examination from our defense counsel, it turned out to be that she wasn't. She told us she arranged for the move, but when the move actually happened, she wasn't there. Okay, so she claimed that her colleague told her that there was nothing damaged. Okay, there was nothing damaged, but she wasn't personally there. She never inspected the furniture. She doesn't even know which furniture was damaged
by the movie.
because, through the question, she said, "Oh, I have a list of lots of furniture items, but she really don't know which one." And then the defense counsel mentioned the furniture identified has a personal sentimental value. Okay, so it's not a regular furniture, right? It's damaged. I can replace it, but this one is particular damage. That is why Yvette Wang made a decision to say, hey, withholding the payment. We're not going to pay the $100,000 to the vendor because
obviously important items were damaged.
Exactly, but Corinne was overspoken because she didn't know whether eventually this bill was paid or not. But she was testified yesterday. She said, no, this was not like withholding and not paid. But eventually was paid at a discounted price between negotiating because you have done some damage to a very important piece of furniture, right? So that was the case came out, and then the last, so the cross-examination and quite also very shortly. It's 10 minutes, no more than 10 minutes, and then at the end, go back to the N95 because previously the last rounds of a cross-examination, our defense asked her, because one of the testimony Corinne said yesterday was the N95 was sent to China, and she believed there's no need to send back to China because N95 was manufactured in China, right? So in the first rounds of cross, that defense counsel said, do you know that sent it to who? Who those N95 goes to in China?
Right.
Do you know that the dissidents have families members at home, right? Do you know all of this? She doesn't know. She doesn't know any of those. So when the second round of cross-examination, and the defense counsel asked, do you remember, is this N95 from which company? Is it from Rule of Law Foundation or Rule of Law Society? I don't remember. Do you remember what is a month that was sent to China? Sorry, I don't remember. Okay, and then the defense counsel made a comment, say, you've met with the prosecutor team for so many times.
How could you?
And you are not bothered to even check the amount that was involved. That's done. So I think that was actually shedding a lot of light to how much she really cared about Chinese people. Really. She doesn't even know anything.
Well,
and then she already made judge.
Right. I think it was all about how much she actually cared about the accuracy of her testimony, right? It wasn't even an argument of whether we care, if you care about Chinese people or if you care that you have joined, the political movement. It was about, as a witness, it is your obligation to testify in the court, right? To give out the most accuracy testimony that you can do. But obviously, things have been selected very carefully. and to present it at a very particular angle. And our defense team tried to, present the full story. That the witness are using, words like "I don't recall," "I don't remember," "I do not know," to try to defend for herself. And so this is exactly, why I think cross-examination matters a lot. Especially for for the defendants.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, I think it definitely left very significant impression to the jurors of how this witness testified in the court, because obviously multiple communications was conducted between her and the government, and most of the answers today seems very disappointing.
Yeah, it just feels like she forgot quite a bit of information, and those information are very significant. On the other hand, she remembered a lot of information, right? And this information are very detrimental and damning to Miles Guo. But so you kind of cannot reconcile, right? So I think that is why I think our defense counsel, the team as a whole, really achieved what they set out to do, which is weaken her credibility, right? In terms of leaving an impression for a jury, for relying on the common sense to derive a impression for the day, right?
Yeah.
So do we have time?
We have a few more minutes.
Okay, so we had a second witness, and his name is Patrick Chen, but he is very brief, like he is both direct and cross-exam. Adding all together is only an hour and 20 minutes. So he was a follower. He claimed he was a follower, although he quit. He left the movement in I think May or June 2020. Okay, and then after that, he had not follow any of the live broadcasting or the movement or Miles Guo. Okay, he basically done at the June 2020, the latest. And when asked when did he first encounter Miles Guo, and his answer is not sure. He said maybe 2017, maybe 2018. So he wasn't too sure about when he actually came across the video that where Miles Guo talk about the VOA, the broadcast suddenly abruptly stopped on the air. But he introduced himself. He is a PhD in EE, electronic engineer, and he works in a semiconductor material manufacturer place in Texas. And he basically used a few strong words. Okay, so when first of all, he also suffered persecution. His family, not him personally. His family suffered persecutions from the CCP. His parents actually fled China to Taiwan. Okay, so he basically lived in Taiwan for 24 years before he came to United States, and then up to 2008 he took a job in China. So he went to China, left United States. Is it China or is it Taiwan? I can't remember. But he left from 2008 to 2018 and returned back to United States with another job offer. Okay, in 2018, and he mentioned about his father's side's brother was killed, uncle was killed, murdered by the CCP, and mother's side was terrified. That's why the parents were fled to Taiwan. So of course, his family was a victim back then of the CCP. So move on to some of the keywords that he said. I find it's interesting because with his very limited knowledge of movements, he's already concluded that this movement is a cult. Okay. So when asked his personal opinion in terms of what's this,
that was through direct questioning, right?
That was through the direct questioning, and he used a cult. Okay. He at that time he believed he was doing something for pro-democracy, but now he believed he think this is a cult.
Did he give any other reasons that?
Because it's a scam. Okay, so he said this is completely a scam, and when we look at his investment, he invested twice. So according to him, the way that the answer was given, he invested total altogether $20,000. The $10,000 was invested to G Media. And because he has a very limited knowledge about this movement, and he does not even know, he does not distinguish between G Media and GTV. So he viewed them interchangeably the same, because we know they're different, right? G Media is with Sarah Wei. It's not with Miles Guo, right? And GTV was later on the private placement. So, but in his mind, he's combining these two as one. He's very confused to start because he's limited knowledge, right? But based on his knowledge, he's already made a personal conclusion saying this is a scam because he got his $10,000 back. And how did he got his first investment to G Media? That's a predecessor of the GTV. That's G Media. That was by Saraway. He said after he wired the money to the designated bank account, he started hearing the hearsay from other fellow fighters, and he also personally didn't get a receipt. That's why it makes him doubt this might be a scam. And then he started talking to people around him, and people, a lot of them thinking this is, or several of them thinking this is a scam. That is why he immediately called his bank and requested the bank to refund the money, and which he did successfully. The bank basically stopped the transaction and refund him the first $10,000. So the second $10,000 was he purchasing G dollar. Okay, and then he basically the same thing. The same day he wired this money, and then he also talking to other people. He think this other people think this is scam, and he think this scam, and he called the bank, Capital One, but the Capital One said, sorry, it's already cleared, went through the bank. So that's why he claimed that he lost the second 10,000. But when the Cross came in and asked him, have you ever asked for a refund?
He said no.
I never asked for Miles School for a refund, but he attributed to all those things to Miles School because Miles School scammed me, and I woke up. He actually used I woke up, because people talking to me, and when asked who you talk to, he mentioned about there is a lady living in Beijing and travel for international business, and this lady warned him that this is a scam. Okay, and because he didn't personally receive the receipt, so he also believed this is a scam based on his very limited assessment of what this really is. So he never joined any farm organization. He said he was a follower of Miles School.
Right. Yeah. So in short, we're running out of time. But in short, that the fifth witness seems to testify, try to portray that this is all scam. But in fact, that the companies that he invested was not actually related to Miles at all. And there is a misunderstanding about the investment that he has made, and there is a misunderstanding about whether he was actually able to reach out people to issue refund, but he did not do so. So today the government has called extra 2 witnesses. Starting from now we have 6 witnesses from the government already, and we would assume more witnesses from the government will appear in the court in the upcoming days. Oh, absolutely.
But I find all witnesses are actually doing favor to us because they're showcasing what the CCP has done and what their knowledge about us is somewhat very limited. Some of them have a very minimal role, like Corinne, right? She sounded like she had a lot, but really when you dissect the details, and the devil's is in the details. Yeah, so I'm very confident.
So facts are facts, right? Yeah. And all of the things will be verified in the court, and we do have full confidence in our strong defense team. And so thank you so much for everyone who follow us, and thank you, Ava, so much for giving us very detailed stories and news about what was going on in the court today. And everybody, please follow us on NFSC Speaks on X, Getter, and follow us especially on NFSC TV to watch us at Miles trial every day 3 p.m.